My biggest mistake, a girl's story. My name is Sophia, and this is the story of the biggest mistake of my life. If someone had told me a few years ago that one decision could change everything, I would have laughed and said that life doesn't work that way. But I was wrong. Sometimes the choices we make in a moment of weakness can affect our entire future. This is the story of how I almost lost myself, and how I found the strength to become the person I was meant to be. I grew up in a small town with loving parents who sacrificed everything to give me a better life. My mother always reminded me that education was the key to independence, while my father taught me that honesty and hard work would take me further than shortcuts ever could. I was a good student, responsible, and focused on my dreams. I wanted to become successful and make my family proud. Everyone believed I had a bright future ahead of me, and for a long time, I believed it too. Everything changed when I moved to another city for university. It was my first time living away from home. I was excited about the freedom, the new experiences, and the opportunity to start fresh. I promised my parents that I would study hard and make the most of this chance. They hugged me goodbye with tears in their eyes and trusted me completely. During my first few weeks at university, I felt lonely. I missed my family, my old friends, and the comfort of home. Then I met a group of girls who seemed to have the perfect life. They were beautiful, fashionable, confident, and popular. Everyone wanted to be around them. When they invited me to sit with them, I felt special. For the first time since arriving at university, I didn't feel alone. At first, everything seemed harmless. We had coffee together after classes, went shopping on weekends, and took hundreds of pictures for social media. But slowly, things began to change. One missed lecture turned into skipping classes regularly. One late-night party turned into a lifestyle. I stopped studying because I convinced myself I had enough time to catch up later. I cared more about looking happy online than actually being happy in real life. Whenever my mother called and asked, "How are your studies going?" I smiled and replied, "Everything is great, Mom." Every lie became easier than the one before. I hated disappointing my parents, but I was too ashamed to admit that I was losing control of my life. Months passed quickly. Assignments piled up. I ignored emails from professors and avoided checking my grades because I was afraid of what I might find. Deep inside, I knew I was making terrible choices, but I kept telling myself that tomorrow I would fix everything. Then came the day I could never forget. The university released the exam results. With trembling hands, I opened the website and searched for my name. My heart stopped. I had failed several subjects. I stared at the screen, unable to breathe. Tears streamed down my face as reality finally hit me. The girl who had once dreamed of achieving great things had become someone she didn't even recognize. I locked myself in my room for hours. I couldn't stop thinking about my parents and all the sacrifices they had made for me. They had worked hard, trusted me, and believed in my future. And I had thrown it away trying to fit in with people who didn't truly care about me. The hardest part was calling home. When my father answered the phone, I broke down crying and confessed everything. I expected him to yell at me, to tell me how disappointed he was. Instead, there was silence. Then he softly said, "Sophia, everyone makes mistakes, but don't let one mistake decide the rest of your life. Stand up, learn from it, and keep moving forward." His words shattered me. That night, I looked at myself in the mirror and asked, "Who have I become?" I realized my biggest mistake wasn't failing exams. It wasn't attending parties or making poor choices. My biggest mistake was abandoning myself. I had changed who I was just to gain acceptance from people whose opinions didn't matter. I had traded my dreams for temporary happiness and lost sight of what truly mattered. The next morning, I made a decision. I deleted distractions from my life. I stopped attending parties. I distanced myself from people who encouraged me to neglect my responsibilities. Some called me boring. Others stopped talking to me altogether. It hurt, but I understood that not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. I created a study schedule and worked harder than I ever had before. There were nights when I cried over textbooks because I felt overwhelmed. There were moments when I wanted to quit because the road ahead seemed impossible. But each time I thought about giving up, I remembered my parents' faith in me and the dreams I had once held so tightly. Slowly, things began to improve. I passed the subjects I had failed. My confidence returned little by little. I learned to enjoy my own company instead of seeking validation from others. I discovered that true friendship isn't based on popularity, but on support, honesty, and respect. Years later, I stood on the graduation stage wearing my cap and gown. As I looked into the audience, I saw my parents smiling proudly through tears. In that moment, I understood something important. Success isn't about never falling. It's about finding the courage to rise again after you've fallen. Today, when young girls ask me for advice, I tell them this story. Never lose yourself trying to impress people who don't truly care about your future. Social media doesn't show reality. Popularity doesn't last forever. The opinions of strangers should never matter more than your self-respect, your family, and your dreams. Mistakes are painful, and sometimes they leave scars that never fully disappear. But mistakes can also become the greatest teachers in our lives. They teach us strength, humility, and the importance of choosing the right path before it's too late. This was my biggest mistake, but it did not become the end of my story. Instead, it became the beginning of a stronger, wiser version of myself. Moral lesson: never sacrifice your dreams, values, and self-worth for temporary acceptance. Learn from your mistakes, believe in yourself, and remember that it's never too late to start over and build the life you truly deserve.